Welcome to the review of the Sage 100 VelocIT Connect credit card interface. The VelocIT Connect interface redirects stock Sage credit card functionality to a new DLL, which can then provide the interface to the chosen credit card gateway. The solution is installed in two steps. One is a Sage 100 interface, which is installed to the Sage server. This process installs the Sage overlays, which redirects the DLL calls. The second piece is a VelocIT workstation install, which is installed on each Sage 100 workstation, which will be processing credit card transactions. Once the VelocIT workstation is installed, there's a VelocIT Tray icon that can facilitate the configuration of the interface. The tray information has the settings. It has support information to send trace logs and error logs, and to configure for remote support. And it has an About, which provides you with the information on what version is installed. The settings is where it's configured for each Sage company. We use the 3-digit company code that is also in Sage. Each company has a merchant ID. There's gateway information and additional settings so that you can configure for level 3, receiving, and other specifics for this particular company. Installing the new interface will remove all existing credit card setups. The new GUIDs will be created as credit cards are re-entered into the system. The system is PCI compliant and no credit card numbers are maintained in Sage, just the GUID, which is the reference to the credit card information in the gateway. VelocIT Connect is a subscription solution, and it is registered under Library Master Utilities VelocIT Enhancement Registration. Once it's registered, the setup is under the Accounts Receivable VelocIT Connect. For each company that's going to use the solution, you activate it by doing the company code and enable, and then you go into Company Maintenance under Library Master and verify under Payment that the VelocIT credit card is enacted for that company. The company should then also have payment of terms set up that are credit card enabled, and the rest of the functionality is stock Sage credit card functionality. Customer maintenance is where credit cards can be entered if you want to save them by customer under Additional. The credit card piece is at the bottom. You set up the credit card information with a billing address. One thing to note here is that the interface uses a 2-digit country code. It's an ISO code, and there is a utility upon installation which will convert 3-digit ISO codes to 2-digit ISO codes. The Add New button at the top is where you would enter the credit card information, and it would create the GUID and come back. There is an edit function where you can change the expiration day and year. To do this, when you enter the credit card information, you would need the full credit card number here to be able to edit the month and year. I'm going to show you a process through sales order entry. We're going to do a mixed process that is a sale with a pre-auth to show you how those pop up individually depending on what type of process it is. My payment pulled in for my customer. If it was not in my customer, I could add it here by clicking on creating a new payment ID and clicking on the save information. It would then prompt me later to add credit card information, and if I added the credit card information, I could save it to my customer, or I could do it for a one-time for this sales order. In this case, I'm going to split it into a payment and a pre-auth, and I'm going to submit at the bottom to do my processing. This is the difference that the Sage user sees. The pop-up is now VelocIT Connect pop-up. It tells you on the top left-hand corner that it's processing the sale. I can enter my CVV and go to the next process. It defaults to the billing information from the sales order, and then it comes up with my process authorization, which is my second posting. Again, it has my defaults, and my authorization code and my transaction ID come back into my sales order. At this point, I can accept the order, or if I need to, I can delete the order. There is a void functionality, and the void will go out and void the deposit. Pre-authorizations are not voided. To void those, you would need to go into the gateway and manually void them. If I was doing a lot of transactions that had pre-authorizations and I did not want to go out to the credit card gateway each time for the authorization, I could enter my sales order, and at the bottom, there's a stock Sage functionality to process and batch. Once that's selected, I can then go to sales order, and then I can use the sales order batch authorization function. It'll go out to sales order and check any orders that have pre-authorizations that have not been processed, and it will pre-auth them in one big batch. I'm going to show you the posting of that sales order all the way through invoicing. So I'm going to pull my sales order into the invoice. I'm going to ship it. My credit card information comes through, and I'm going to do my sales reports. Part of Sage has a deposit report that shows you the information that is being processed for credit cards or any deposits during this particular run. It gives me my 2 different postings, and I'm going to update that. At this point, those transactions are now on my gateway. I can also go into cash receipts entry and process credit cards at this point. I could choose an invoice that already exists, or I could choose to do it as a prepayment. In this case, the invoice already exists. Once I click on it, my amount posted as a penny, and it pulls up my information. And again, I can process it in batch, or I can submit the card right now, and it does my sale transaction, and it comes back, and I have my authorization and my transaction ID. Again, I can delete, and it'll void this. If I void it, it'll delete my cash receipt, and it'll delete my entry on the gateway. Under Accounts Receivable, the VelocIT Connect menu, there is a VelocIT Settlement report. This report allows you to capture information that is already out on the gateway and validate it against what's posted to your system. It gives you the transactions. My report is not fully formatted, but it gives you the transaction information and what has been captured. This is a crystal report, so you have the option of beautifying it, whichever way you want. So to recap, VelocIT Connect provides a very easy installation process and setup, and it utilizes stock Sage existing credit card functionality to minimize the learning curve for your end users. Thank you.